Hey guys, welcome back to Tough Love with Dr. John O'Connor. Today we're going to talk about two things that in my life right now are super relevant, and not only businesses, but they're something that I personally do on a daily basis and would love to talk to you guys about, the audience, and kind of shed some light on how I train, take care of myself, and things that I may think you find interesting as well. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about anti-aging and hormone replacement therapy, as well as recovery sciences. So owning Velocity Wellness Institute with my partners, we decided to open up an anti-aging center, which specialized in men and women's health with regards to looking at deficiencies with regards to hormones such as testosterone and estrogen and creating balances. And for myself, I know the big thing was I was extremely deficient with regards to testosterone after my bout of injury and depression during COVID. And I was blown away because I would have never thought that with all the years of exercise and sports and everything. And my blood work was a disaster. And I initially started with a local doc and actually started with peptides, which I came to love and had a really nice response, and felt like the energy was a little better and everything was a little bit better, and rolled into doing testosterone replacement therapy because the doctor felt that that was something that would benefit me as well. And the one thing that I think is out there for so many people is, and I think with this podcast, I'll post a lot of pictures that show my progression, but it's not PEDs, people. It's going to change you, but if you're fit, you're going to stay fit. It's not going to transform you into a Hercules. In my 20s and 30s and even early 40s, I have always been in very good shape. I think that, I'd have the downtime between basketball training, which I did as an adult from 27 to 45, that I would gain some weight. But overall, I kept myself in pretty elite level, fitness level, because as a on-court skills trainer and performance coach, I prided myself being out there and doing, pretty much all the reps with my athletes and loved it. Loved it. It was not only physical therapy for me, but mental therapy, staying youthful. I used to come home, and whether my kids were with me or not, and I would tell my buddies across the country that I felt like Peter Pan, and that I felt like I was never going to get, old. And I always attributed it to having the privilege of going up and down the court with young athletes, both male and female, and keeping myself in optimum elite shape. That all changed probably around 44, 45. I had my first major surgery at 39 with regards to a reconstructive knee surgery. It was called a microfracture repair. And that was a battle for me. I definitely had to dig in. At the time, we were just sold our Jackson home, and I was living with my parents. And I guess it was probably 11 years ago. I was going to the Atlanta Club every day with a good friend of mine that's a restaurant juggernaut in the area. And we were rehabbing at like 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning in the pool for an hour and a half, training for an hour and a half. And I made it my job to get back to the court. I was like, I'm not going to go out that way. And I did get back, and, I look back at that as a victory on the belt, so to speak. But again, like anything else, time is always a deciding factor. I got into that once I got healthy, I got neglectful again and started kind of burning myself out. And I would say probably about 5 years later, between running around with the kids and social and family and work around the clock, my body had burnt out. And, I probably hear this more times than not from so many of my younger guys that are in their 30s. And, when they meet me, they're like, how old are you? I just got it today, actually, up at Powerhouse, where we have our newest business location about to open. And a guy walked up, and I was training chest today, and he's like, just out of curiosity, how old are you? And when I said 50, he was like, good Lord, you keep yourself in great shape. And I said, I'm blessed. I have, a great medical staff that oversees my health. And, probably the biggest thing beyond, doing the hormone replacement therapy and the peptides is really nutrition. I don't think I put as much emphasis into that, but it really is what changes your body. And, when I'm nailing my diet and, getting in 5 meals a day and my protein is, on point, my body responds remarkably well. And I think most do. That's all about discipline, because much like my morning posts at 5 a.m. between 5 and 5:30 every day when I'm on the PEMF unit and I'm doing all the recovery that I do to keep my body moving now that I was neglectful of in my 30s and 40s, that I say to myself all the time, I'm like, I want to train like this as hard and as long as I can. And that takes just as much consistency on the recovery side as it does on the performance side. So, enter the morning posts where I'm sitting there on PEMF for, 40 minutes to an hour, or I'm on the Mark Pro, or the, wellness products like the Cold Laser or MedRay lasers, the local ones, or Shockwave that I bring home. These devices are all amazing at, speeding up musculoskeletal injuries and keeping me performing. Today, it was funny. I had a remarkable workout yesterday with my good friend and colleague, Dr. Sean Morris. And as a professional bodybuilder, he crushes workouts. So I was like, you know what? I'm up for the challenge. So of course, Sunday fun day, we did legs over at Powerhouse, and I was zonked today. And, when I was training chest, I was laughing because it took me a good 45 minutes to wake up because of how draining it was from a central nervous system perspective, recruiting all of that muscle to keep up with him during the workout. And the weight wasn't even that heavy. But again, it's taught me so much and the importance of taking care of yourself. But let's get back into the myths about HRT therapy. I think one of the big things is when we were kids, or you hear people say, oh, that person's all juiced up and whatnot. We're extremely regulated what we can do and what we can't do. This isn't stuff that you're going to grow overnight and you're going to all of a sudden look like, a massive bodybuilder. It will change you. It will boost your energy. It will speed up your recovery. It will help you build lean body mass, but you have to do the work. Because the first rounds, and I'm definitely going to post some pictures when I was with, before we opened up our own center, I was extremely lean, but I was skinny. I was 187 to 190 pounds at best, and now I'm 215 pounds. My body fat was remarkably low, but I was living on, 4 to 5 protein shakes a day and 1 or 2 meals because I just had no desire to eat. I had to kind of retrain my entire body, and really more importantly, my mind to get into that mode. And I see so many people. I was just actually talking to a patient today when he's like, I envy you to, how disciplined you are with your eating. And I was like, I have no idea how these bodybuilders do this for a long period of time, 5 years, 10 years and beyond. It is such a mental, warfare with yourself to push. It's not, you're sitting there craving, to have a cheeseburger or, French toast or, bread pudding or something like this. This is eating, grilled chicken, baked chicken, fish, asparagus, broccoli, sweet potatoes, a healthy rice, and you're eating a lot of it all day long. It's repetitive. But the results are ridiculous. And how you feel, how you look, I will say that to me, it inspires me to inspire other people. When they ask, I'm like, you know what? I meal prep multiple days a week. I take extreme pride in that. I love my guys at Eat Clean Bro and these other places, but I like to kind of dig in and with these two hands, make my own food and experiment with different tastes and whatnot, because then I feel like I'm more vested to the process. And when I probably started doing the meal prep last November, I started with like a very basic baked chicken, sweet potato, rice, and broccoli or asparagus. And I may have graduated to, steak and salmon. And it was so basic. And I laughed because now I have it down to a science where I can make, excellent tasting food where, my guys at work have it and they're like, Doc, you're like chefing it up. And I said, guys, to be consistent, like you really, really, really have to, put the time in. I know some people can just be machines and kind of glom it down, but I think this many years later, I think you have to put a love into it, as my mom would say about the food. One more thing that I think, as far as talking about, what makes people, shy away from, HRT therapy or peptide therapy is the cost. But, there's a couple great Instagrammers. One of them is a pharmacist. And he always talks about, the cost of health versus the cost of sickness. And one of the things that I would say is that if I'm spending $150 or $200 a week on good food to feel and look great, what would I be spending, for one bad meal, or I should say probably tasted great, but an unhealthy meal could be $200-$300. And I'm buying, lean red meat and salmon and, lean chicken and, lean turkey and, compounding that with what I'm doing with the HRT therapy. And I think that that's something that, we have a new business opening up in Old Bridge that I got pulled into, and I'm excited. It's a different county. It's an entirely different population and patient base, but these are people that we're going to offer a service to that are already very active. And our Monmouth County practice was, it started out heavy in aesthetics, and we've more evolved into a HRT center at this point, as far as just the natural progression, I think, being one of the key drivers. I think people see how I live and what I do, and it's definitely something that kind of steers the direction of that practice. I'm excited about Boost Medical, which is about to open, because that team is very different. And again, when you talk about different counties, it's different cultures and a different kind of gym, a different kind of person there. So I'm excited to see where that goes. More about the recovery. Another thing, I love seeing the huge push with the cold therapy and infrared, and one of my favorites, or two of my favorites, the class 4 laser. And of course, Pulse PEMF makes an amazing pulsed electromagnetic field system that I think is the Cadillac in the business. And I swear by it. The other day, I had came back from the gym last Tuesday, and I couldn't believe how sore I was, courtesy of my trainer, Patrice. And I jumped on the PEMF unit and stacked it on my glute for about 25 minutes, and it was gone. And, again, I tell people all the time, I'm amazed what people will complain about spending, yet they'll roll in with a pair of $1,000 shoes and they're walking with a limp, or they drive an amazing car they can barely get in and out of. And yet, to me, what I learned when I had lost my health, the greatest value add is taking care of it and guarding it at all costs. And that's where I think, the evolution where I see myself in the next decade of what I do in business is driving people to understand it's not the price of what you're getting. It's the cost of what you're losing by not making the right choices. And, if you're, out partying and eating bad 7 days a week, and you never exercise, and you're always sitting down, and you're never, walking 30 minutes to an hour a day, or doing no resistance weight training or anything like that, and then you're wondering why your health is slipping, your waist is growing, and everything's falling apart, we got to look in the mirror and see, like, hey, my lifestyle is doing this. I think one of the best coaches in the business leadership coaching sales space right now is Andy Elliott. And I think a lot of people give him a hard time because he body shames people. And I think sometimes you need it. I think that I'm not exactly sure how old he is, but I will tell you this. I know when we were growing up, our coaches were very adamant about physical fitness and conditioning. And I think in this day and age, coaches actually get in trouble for making kids run sprints. But I used to actually be thankful when in the preseason as a basketball player, when we ran sprints, because I knew when the season started, I'd be jumping better, running faster, and not getting tired versus coming into the season ready to throw up every time we got pressed or we had to press and, we were deconditioned. But again, circling back to, the whole space with anti-aging, I think it's something that, we're really pushing, of course, in our business model and talking to people about getting routine blood work and looking at those levels, looking to see where their testosterone is. And of course, the other things that go with it, there are patients that have heart disease, heart conditions, and of course, any prostate issues that, we have to screen out. And, our medical team does an excellent job of doing that. But at the same time, too, early detection, much like prevention, is the way to go. So when you elect to take care of yourself, you're running blood work that could, really save your life in more ways than one. I know for me, now it's been a couple of years that I've been on, the HRT therapy. And I got to say that, the testosterone replacement has done wonders, but I will say that the peptide therapy for me was probably the biggest game changer because, introducing, such peptides or peptide-like genre, if you will, the TB500 and the BPC 157, and a few other combinations were fantastic for a lot of the musculoskeletal issues that I had and inflammation issues, as well as some gut health things that were kind of lingering that I no longer deal with or are significantly less symptomatic that bother me. And I will tell you, now being in this bodybuilding realm, you're sore a good part of the time. And, you got to be able to distinguish between soreness and recovery and an injury coming on. But I will tell you that, knock on wood, I've been fantastic for a long time now. And, and I think that is a direct correlation to, constantly, regulating what I do with regards to the HRT therapy, constantly regulating what I'm cycling as far as my peptides and, of course, my nutrition. I think that plays a huge role. And probably one of the biggest things that I thought I drank a lot of water as a kid, constantly on the basketball court, but now drinking, 1.5 gallons to 2 gallons of water a day, I feel remarkably better. I had to take a chug just there. So at any rate, one of the big things that I would say about today's podcast is, we have a pretty far reach now, is that if you do have a center, and now with the online access, I believe that's something we'll be pursuing with our Velocity Wellness Institute, is doing some form of telemed. Look into it, do your homework, and find out if it's something that could benefit you. Too many times being in gyms all the time, I hear people kind of buying stuff and doing it on the black market. And here's first is I had to date myself a little bit because I heard them refer to it as gear. And I wasn't really sure what that was. And I think my guys on the set are kind of chuckling right now because I'm laughing because knowing as a sneakerhead and I love clothes, I was looking at them like, I don't know, their stuff looks pretty basic, and they were not talking about their clothing. They were talking about what they were buying and illegally shooting into themselves. And, I think the protective dad in me and the healthcare provider for 20 plus years was like, hey guys, I got to tell you, I've done a lot of reckless stuff, but you got to be really careful when you talk about, regulating testosterone or different, physiological, levels in your body. And you want to really make sure you have healthcare professionals that are knowledgeable in this space so that you're making the right gains and you're putting the right stuff in your body and more importantly, and most importantly, the right amounts. So at any rate, I guess today was more of a kind of a discovery and kind of letting my audience know. I don't think, I'm a person that anybody knows me. I kind of put it out there and I'm not one for holding back. I think sharing with people that if you're doing stuff for, performance or feeling better or being more energized, why wouldn't you share it? Right? I don't look at it as something to be secretive about. I think you should share it because if someone else can feel better, to me, I'm like paying it forward. And so that's kind of what today was about. And I know we have a member appreciation event coming up at one of the businesses that we're in at the Ford Athletic Club. And we're going to have a ton of our recovery equipment there. And I believe we'll have a pulse unit there where we'll be PEMFing people as well as cryotherapy and the Normatex and stuff, and letting people see what I do on a daily basis to let them feel as amazing as I'm blessed to, feel on a regular basis. So at any rate, thank you so much for joining us today on today's podcast. I hope you found it informative. Like, comment, share, and we'll see you guys again soon.